Investigating Rockstar's Agent has always been a bit of a challenge. While a lot of canceled games see big cinematic trailers, demos, or even leaked footage, Agent has only ever officially been a logo and a small handful of press releases. However, over the years, leaks, rumors, and interviews have painted a picture of what Agent could have been and why it was eventually canceled. With it more than likely never coming out, and the future of Rockstar shifting in a new direction, it's time we investigate Agent, taking a look at why it never saw the light of day, and how Rockstar itself was changing around it. Well before its initial announcement at E3 2009, Agent began life on the PS2 in 2003. Angel Studios, who had recently been acquired by the Rockstar parent company Take-Two and rebranded as Rockstar San Diego, was being put to the test. While they'd previously developed iconic franchises such as Midtown Madness and the first Midnight Club, their new parent company wanted Angel to prove that they were in fact Rockstars, and worth the $28 million they'd spent on the acquisition. This test came in the form of Agent, an open-world PS2 title, taking inspiration from British television shows like The Professionals and movies like James Bond. Washington, D.C. was intended as a hub world, with linear maps such as Cairo branching off from there. This PS2 version was what developers were working on when visits to both Cairo and DC would result in the detaining of employees taking reference photos. In Cairo, that would lead to the developers being unable to leave their hotel rooms, forced to call the US Embassy, and narrowly avoiding jail time. Despite the project having a prototype and a built-out, historically accurate 1970s Washington, D.C., the plug would be pulled on this version of Agent in 2007, shifting much of the engine and physics work to Red Dead Redemption instead, as San Diego's proprietary Angel Studios engine had been morphed into Rage, Rockstar's next-generation tech that they were using after the developers of their previous engine, Criterion's Renderware, had been acquired by Electronic Arts. The development of San Diego's Agent also came with a culture shock, however, as they were forced into 16-hour, 7-day work weeks with strict oversight from Rockstar HQ and the founding Hauser brothers specifically, all for a project that wasn't announced and had no planned release date. It was a big shift from the more laid-back attitude of Angel Studios, and a sign of what was to come for the rapidly growing Rockstar.
Today, we'd like to announce a new property coming from Rockstar North.
The first information on the more mysterious and iconic version of Rockstar's Agent project would come from E3 2009. During Sony's press conference, President Jack Tretton would officially announce a PS3 exclusive title from Rockstar Games, citing it as a globe-trotting adventure in the world of espionage in the 1970s. Tretton points directly to games like GTA 3 and Bully being timed exclusives on the PS2, and the close relationship and success Rockstar had with Sony up to that point. While some of that is the result of Microsoft underestimating GTA's ability to jump to 3D, it's also worth pointing out that all three Grand Theft Autos on the PS2 managed to be in the top 6 highest-selling games on the platform, with San Andreas being number 1. The relationship between the two companies was strong, and the PS3 was in dire need of third-party exclusives. During an interview that same week, Rockstar President Sam Hauser would point directly to Rockstar North in Edinburgh as the studio heading up development on Agent, as they had just finished up work on GTA 4. Despite the switch, it's unclear how much of San Diego's Agent carried over into Rockstar North. It's worth pointing out, though, that during the development of the original Agent, San Diego continually butted heads over the direction of the story, specifically in relation to taking influence from the show The Professionals. The Hausers, having grown up in the UK, were big fans, and the team at San Diego had basically no cultural frame of reference for it. Rockstar North, being located in the UK, was likely a better fit for what the Hausers envisioned. Agent also fit a gap between the turn-of-the-century world of Red Dead Redemption, the post-war Los Angeles of the recently acquired LA Noire, and the 1980s Miami and 1990s West Coast of Vice City and San Andreas, respectively. The 1970s and even environments outside of the United States were mostly untapped by Rockstar at that time. Beyond the announcement and interviews around the E3 news cycle, very little information would come about that same year. In September, however, a Q&A on Rockstar's website, which has now been taken down, points to 3 titles being released the next year in 2010: Red Dead Redemption, Max Payne 3, and, quote, the PlayStation 3 exclusive Agent. Only one of these would actually come out in 2010, as the oft-delayed Max Payne 3 would be bumped into 2011 and then again into 2012, allowing for Rockstar to continue their streak of releasing about one-ish tentpole title a year for over a decade. Because the original source is missing, it's unclear who exactly was stating that Agent was prepped for a 2010 release. Judging from leaks, rumors, and the PS2 project, this was something a little more smaller scale, rather than the massive open worlds Rockstar was known for. However, only a little over a year from announcement to release feels like a quick turnaround, even if the project had been in development for some time before that. In the lead up to E3 2010, an associate editor from British dude magazine Nuts, Rory Buckeridge, would report on Twitter that Rockstar had pulled a game launch from the upcoming trade show. And shortly after, the publisher would pull out of E3 altogether, citing a lack of time needed to show off their projects. Immediate speculation would point to Agent, with at the very least a trailer being debuted. While some analysts at the time speculated that it would be GTA 5, with hindsight we know that the actual development of the 5th Grand Theft Auto would have just started in full production that year. That being said, it's not unlikely that this was a gameplay reveal for LA Noire instead, as the project had been featured in a Game Informer cover story a few months prior, and was still targeting a release date in late 2010, despite what was said during that aforementioned Q&A. Gameplay for Team Bondi's title would also be shown off later that year, and with its troubled development, it's safe to assume that if LA Noire is what Rockstar wanted to debut, it not being ready by press time was a partial motivator in them pulling out. It would be a few years until any further information on Agent would come to light, however. While it would often come up in Take-Two's yearly earnings calls and shareholder meetings, little more would be said beyond yes, it's still in development, and no further comment at this time. In 2011, Game Trailers TV would sit down with Jack Tretton around E3 and finally ask him directly. Being 2 years almost exactly since the announcement, and with the next console generation looming, PS3 exclusivity was beginning to feel unlikely. As Tretton put it,
Agent is still in development, but I'm not sure exactly where we'll land on exclusivity. That's more something for Rockstar to decide. But I'm sure we'll have a great offering on Agent for PS3.
While he continues to reinforce Sony's relationship with the studio, it's clear that he's not really sure what's going on with Agent at all, beyond its supposed continued development. However, the GTA 5 announcement trailer would come later that same year, with the Agent developer Rockstar North at the helm. It's unclear how much of a priority it was for the studio at that time. In August, following Tretton's remarks, an interior environment artist Lee Donahue would release pictures of Agent to his portfolio. Nothing is confirmed, but it's not unlikely that this is Cairo, a level from San Diego's initial work on the project. While Donahue was at Rockstar when that Agent was in development, the images are dated 2009, the same year the game was announced for PS3. These images don't tell us much about Agent beyond that the game was still in some form of concept stage in 2009, making that Q&A's suspected 2010 release date very unlikely. Something similar would happen in 2015, as designer Darren Hatton would put images from his own time on Agent into his portfolio. There are quite a few here, and while they also don't reveal much, they seem to be in a similar place as Donahue's pieces. Many of these are also dated in 2009, with actual dates around October and November. For a long time, I've personally speculated that since both Hatton and Donahue were members of the Australian game development scene, as Donahue would depart Rockstar to join up with Chrome Studios, and Hatton would join Rockstar after the closure of Pandemic Studios Brisbane, that members of the Agent team would be pulled in to assist with the particularly brutal last few years of LA Noire's development, which at that same time was currently being worked on in Sydney at Team Bondi. Following the release, work on Agent would be shelved in favor of something like GTA 5. This doesn't necessarily hold water, as neither names are listed in the complete credits list that developers on LA Noire were forced to make after so many names were omitted from the credits of the finished game. Similarly, many of the other Rockstar employees listed on Donahue's LinkedIn are all located in Edinburgh, implying that he relocated to Australia following his departure from Rockstar. Ironically, the one game he would work on at Chrome Studios was Happy Feet 2, which was being developed when the studio fell on hard times, and the team was acquired by director George Miller's company, Kennedy Miller Mitchell Interactive, the developers of the LA Noire sequel, Whore of the Orient. Donahue, however, would not be involved.
And you know every year we have to ask you one question, Jack, right?
Go ahead, I'll let you ask it because I know
Are you ready? Here we go. So Jack, are there any news on Agent?
I would say that we have great friends over at Rockstar, and they're developing the game, not us. So I'm looking forward to hearing. If you hear anything, you let me know. If I hear anything, I'll let you know.
Unfortunately, they never seem to appear on this couch at E3.
In the lead up to the release of GTA 5, almost nothing would come from Agent. When asked about the project in May of 2013, the only word from Rockstar was essentially, sorry, no word. However, only a few days later, internet investigator Superannuation discovered the project on a CV of someone working at Rockstar's headquarters in New York, listed as an ongoing production. Because they were deep in the development of GTA 5, it's not unlikely that the project had just been backburnered for their flagship. When Grand Theft Auto was released, no more information would come. And with Rockstar North's continued support of GTA Online and Jack Tretton's departure from Sony the following year in 2014, it seemed that Agent had gone completely missing in action. For a few years, quote, unreleased footage of Agent would appear on YouTube. However, that instead came from the London studio's cancelled game 8 Days. Despite the lack of information, Rockstar would continue to include Agent on their website as an upcoming game with no release date. In 2017, another series of Agent concept art would drop from a leaker fittingly named Bully 2 Info. The source on this is somewhat unclear, and due to the secretive nature of Rockstar, at first glance it feels not unlikely that this is North Yankton from the prologue of GTA 5. After all, very little concept art from that game has been released to the public, and none from this early in development. However, taking a look at the third picture, on the tunnel is the symbol of Carinthia in southern Austria. If this is in fact concept art from Agent, this is the first information on what other locations other than Cairo and Washington, D.C. were to be included. While no artist is given, it's very likely the work of former longtime Rockstar concept artist Ian McHugh, who departed the studio in 2014. In places, it resembles his exaggerated landscape and character work done in the lead up to GTA 4. While it's unclear when this was from, they were likely created sometime before the other pieces in 2009. Compared to those, these seem very early, and not really representative of what was going to be in the game at all. The following year, Rockstar would release Red Dead Redemption 2, a combined effort of every studio under the Rockstar umbrella. With increased development costs and fidelity, and a more homogenized approach to studio organization, Rockstar had moved away from yearly releases into large tentpoles designed to immerse players, and raise the bar for the types of stories and worlds gaming could create. Only a month after its release, however, it would be discovered that Rockstar had abandoned its trademark in January of 2017. This trademark was an update of the original one filed in 2013, only a few months before the release of GTA 5. While again it's unconfirmed, this does point to a Rockstar who was intending to pick up work on Agent following the release of Grand Theft Auto, though how much work was done in and around 2013 is unclear. Tiny rumors, supposed leaks, and Half-Life 3 level theories would continue up until the present day, though almost nothing would be confirmed or point to any potential future for the project. In February of 2022, Rockstar would officially announce GTA 6, as they gradually shifted resources from the Red Dead Online team into the next installment in its flagship. It seems unlikely that anything will ever officially come from the Agent project, and it will continue to be a mystery. While I'm not in the business of rampant speculation, examining the end of Agent almost requires it. Most prominently, Agent seemed like a risk. In the years leading up to GTA 5, Rockstar took some serious gambles on Max Payne 3, LA Noire, and even Bully. When some of these didn't pan out, at least financially, it seems like they shifted to a focus on more known quantities. Grand Theft Auto 5 was a guaranteed bestseller. It wasn't in a position to fail. And with a focus on the long-term support and long-term profits of GTA Online that came with it, it was the much safer bet for Rockstar North to focus on. With that success came a once-in-a-generation approach to releases. With Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2 and GTA 4 and 5, Rockstar was synonymous with massive high-fidelity worlds. With increasing development costs and demands, their structure was reorganized into something more collaborative, like what we saw with Red Dead 2. On top of that, prominent voices at the company such as Leslie Benzies and Dan Houser would leave the company in 2016 and 2022 respectively. Rockstar is now missing some of its strongest creative voices. the ones most likely to go to bat for new and risky projects. What Agent represents is a shift away from risks, to a more unified and frankly homogenized Rockstar, and less opportunity for their individual studios to take up new out-of-the-ordinary projects. It's a hard realization to come to. On one hand, we get games like Red Dead Redemption 2, and on the other, we go 10 years between new entries and series. Rockstar's place in gaming has changed, and part of that is a result of Agent's cancellation.